right, good afternoon. We'll call to order the special meeting for the Akron Public Schools Board of Education for Thursday, April 2nd, 2020. Roll call, please.
Dr. Akbar.
Here.
Mr. Alexander.
Present.
Ms. Autry.
Here.
Mr. Bravo.
Here.
Dr. Hall.
Aye.
Mrs. Mansfield.
Here.
Mrs. McKittrick.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if you, again, I know that we are a little limited here, but if you could all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance from where you are. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United
States of America and to the republic
Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
For all.
Thank you so much. And with that, our first order of business is a need to recess into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22 G1 to discuss the employment of personnel of the district. And I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion by Bruce Alexander, a second by Diana Autry. Any comments, question, or discussion before we recess into executive session? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Ms. Autry. Ms. Autry.
Oh, she's on mute.
Yes, you got to unmute.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Bravo.
Yes.
Dr. Hall.
Aye.
Mrs. Mansfield.
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick.
Yes.
Dr. Akbar.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, we are going to log out of this session, and you should be able to log into the executive session portion. And once we know that we're the only ones on there, then we will go ahead and start the conversation. So we'll see you over there in just a second.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. We are back in regular session, and to open up just a little bit of discussion, given that the governor has extended the school closure, the statewide school closure through May 1st, and we've made our move to online learning, and that the federal stimulus package has come out since that time. Wanted to talk a little bit, Ryan, if you can, maybe start us off with any impact on our 5-year forecast and our need to develop a flexible plan by which we can move forward and kind of address any shortfalls that we may see coming our way.
Thanks, Mr. President. I think the most important areas to focus on as it relates to the 5-year forecast and our immediate revenue should be framed around the need for future levy dollars anyways, as the November forecast was indicating. The 3 major sources of revenue that we'll keep an eye on and start to report kind of month over month trends and differences for the board are: 1, state aid, approximately 57% of our revenue; 2, property taxes representing about 30% of our revenue; and 3, investment income. As we know, the financial markets have changed pretty dramatically. We generate about $90,000, sometimes more a month, in interest income. Those 3 areas, as well as on the spending side, we'll start to report to the board over the next days and coming weeks as to their impacts. As was discussed in executive session, as it relates to the federal stimulus plan, We also need to stay tuned to what the state of Ohio does in terms of its application and uses of those funds and how it might alleviate some of our budget needs. You're still on mute, Patrick.
Thank you. And so we've asked the superintendent and the CFO to come up with a flexible plan by which we can address some of these things should we start to see some changes in any of those areas. Mr. Superintendent, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, under the CARES Act, which is the federal stimulus related to this emergency, there could be some relief. There's like $13.5 billion, which will be distributed across the country. Each state, I believe, will get a share of that based on an application at the state departments of education will submit. And so in reviewing some of the covered items under there, a lot of it would have to do how we respond to the emergency and any needs we have there, you know, whether it's how to help our disabled students maintain their education, or sanitizing buildings, or issues with technology, or maintaining operations. So we'll have to wait and see what the Ohio application looks like when that application is sent out, and then, you know, when that money, if Ohio gets it approved, when that would actually, you know, come to district. So that could have an impact, you know, on our budget. You know, the other thing I can say is, you know, we're still operating. We started our virtual classrooms and virtual learning this week. We've had a little over 19,000 hits from individual students to our Google Classrooms working with teachers. You know, we continue to send meals out. Probably over the last 10 days, a little over 100,000 meals. So I would say that's almost nearly 10,000 a day. And compared to some of our other districts, particularly the large 8, you know, Cleveland's been distributing 8,000 meals a day. Cincinnati and Columbus each about 3,000 meals a day. Canton has about 6,000 meals a day, and they're kind of an outlier because they're doing 3 meals, breakfast, lunch, and I believe dinner. But you know, we're serving a lot of students, and we'll continue to do that. And just want to say our spring break is coming up as regularly scheduled, so meals won't be delivered that week, but we are providing some information on some of the other partners out there who actually will be providing meals, because we really have to retune, get some more deliveries in. We have to rotate out some of our staff because they are overwhelmed with the number of meals that they're giving. So we'll be passing out some information next week about that, because next week we'll be giving out meals, and then we'll take a week off, and then we'll be back at it the following week.
Good. Board members, do you have any comments, questions, discussion that you'd like to add?
Yeah, this is Derek. You know, I was going to hop in here. Yeah, I think, you know, to Dr. James's point about the number of meals that have been passed out, when you think about the sheer size of a Cincinnati or a Columbus, especially compared to Akron, and, you know, they're giving out 3,000 a day and we're at 10. I mean, that's nothing short of amazing to me. So, I think that, you know, we definitely have to sort of, I think it's prudent to pause for just a moment, just to really appreciate, you know, the reality of those numbers, you know, and thinking through like how far ahead of the curve, no pun intended, we are, even when it comes to feeding our students.
Thank you.
Well said.
Anyone else have comments, question, or discussion, or any other business to come before the board?
Not from me, Mr. President.
We'll have more on Monday from instructional policy, but I just want to give a shout out to our teachers who've just stepped up in incredible ways this week, just doing amazing lessons and enthusiastically doing lessons. And the students, like Dr. James said, We've had 19,000 of them log in this week. There is information on our website for both parents, students, faculty. It's a really comprehensive. So encouraging people to go to that and learn more. But I think we're going to talk more about attendance and grades and things like that on Monday.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, just kind of piggybacking on that, just the fact that the vast majority of our students have logged in. So I think that is a excellent thing that we have done. I do have a question about the folks, though, the small percentage that we haven't reached. Do we know anything about that that hotspot? I think that Spectrum was providing. I've heard mixed information. Some said that if you had an existing account that you couldn't get it, and
Correct.
Their grandparents who have no clue about technology.
Right. Yeah. So that the hotspot issue is an issue for us, a serious one. We've leased 500 from T-Mobile, I believe. We were trying to get 1,500 this as late as today for 1,500 hotspots. And the vendor, I won't name the vendor, but that vendor, the first estimate we got for 1,500 hotspots, it would cost us almost $2.5 million for 12 months. I don't need hotspots for 12 months. I just need like 2 or 3 to get through the end of the school year. So I've reached out to some of our partners to try and see if we can reach out to some other vendors and try and get a better deal on those hotspots. The same vendor that gave us, the in excess of $2 million came back, and now it's, I don't know, $1.4 million. Well, now I have no confidence, because how do you go for the same items? How do you go from there to that? So look, it's an important issue, but I'm not going to take the district into bankruptcy, by being held hostage. All I need is for some higher ups in these organizations to say, this is an emergency, give the district 3 or 4 months of these things. I don't care if they're at cost. I don't care if they make a little profit on it, but it is a serious problem. And it's not just for students. Some of our employees don't have internet service, and in order to keep them working so they can do their jobs, they need to get that. And I think we can, for the small number who don't, we can try and help them out. So it is a serious issue, not maybe for the majority of our students, but I have to be concerned for all of them. And it's an equity issue that I'm sure Bruce would, talk about. And so we're trying to mitigate that problem.
Yeah. Now, we do have hotspots that we have been giving out, correct?
Yes, we had 500.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And we approved that at the last meeting or 2 meetings ago or something like that. And I know I have gotten some requests and have referred them to Carla, and it seems like they've gotten what they've needed, because I haven't heard back from those parents. So I'm assuming that if there are anybody else out there who need hotspots, to reach out to Carla Chapman, and the ones that we do have, she'll be able to get them to them.
Right. Or even call our engagement center, because they're also taking down, various requests from across the district, and then connecting those requests to the right people, so those issues can be handled as quickly as possible.
Yeah. And then
it's not, I'm sorry, it's not ideal, but there is access within our parking lots and around our buildings and around the libraries, even though they're closed. Again, not ideal. Got to still maintain social distancing. Might be able, if you've got a car and you can get to one, you might have a car and not have an internet. If the weather stays like this, maybe you take your Chromebook and you can go sit up next to a building and still maintain social distancing. AMHA has some Wi-Fi with on their properties as well. So just depending on where people live, just trying to think a little outside the box. It's nice if the weather stays like this and gets even a little better. That helps us all, but it's just another access point.
Just
Yeah.
to keep us legally within the purpose for which this meeting was called. Some of this we can also discuss on Monday. So want to keep us tied to the meeting notice that went out to the public for this meeting, which was for executive session. So if we can we maybe have some of this on Monday and maybe better prepare some of our thoughts for that.
Mr. President, if I could just make one more observation, and again, happy to make it again on Monday. I did get a concerned email from a teacher, and I thought was worth sharing. What was pointed out was that we do have students for whom school is a refuge. It's a safe place for them. And now with the schools being shut down for reasons obviously outside of our control, and thinking about how we track attendance and how those students are able to, if they're not in a great living condition and great living environment, what, if anything, can we do for those students? And again, it's not something that we're going to solve right now today. And I'll say this again on Monday too, if need be, but just it's something I'd like us to start thinking about. Maybe trying to think creatively and outside the box about what other alternatives we can put in place for students that have really tough home environments that are not at all, sort of engineered for learning.
Right. Well, good. Obviously, with today's meeting, we have a meeting scheduled on Monday. There may be a need for additional special meetings as we move forward, including next week. Things are changing rapidly and daily, and so we'll need to stay on top of that, and our staff will need to stay on top of that. We'll notify the board of any need for additional meetings, and we probably have some difficult decisions to make as we move forward, given that we don't know what this is going to look like or how long this is going to last. And I know that we've all spoken about that. Just want to thank all of you for the work that you're doing, for keeping in contact with your clusters and the community and keeping us all informed of what you're hearing. An excellent job, and I don't think we could ask for a better team, and certainly David and Ryan and their staff for all of the hard work that they do, and just echoing what I've heard about students being online. We're very pleased with the way things are going. It's not an overly rosy picture. We've obviously got some things that we're finding along the way, from hotspots to getting students connected, that we need to work on, and we'll keep doing that moving forward, making sure that we're engaging those students. So is there any other business to come before the board?
I don't have anything, Mr. President.
All right. Well, hearing none, I'm sorry.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a motion and we have a second by Mr. Alexander. Any final comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Dr. Akbar,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
Ms. Autry,
Yes.
Mr. Bravo,
Yes.
Dr. Hall,
Aye.
Mrs. Mansfield,
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. We are adjourned.
All right, have a good evening.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
Stay well.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.